Hi guys, very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Ajay and today you are watching the video number 596, which is going to be on the user forms. And in this video we are going to learn how we can replace the special characters from the set from the range, right? So you are watching youtube.com/c/ajaykumarparmar, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that. And this is all the playlist sequence which you can watch. Channel is dedicated, primarily divided into 5 sections: Excel, Excel VBA, Access and Access VBA, and the Outlook VBA. So you can go through all these playlists. There are almost 52 playlists which I have created. Okay, so let's talk about now today's question. Now a few days back I received a comment from one of my subscribers, Amit Sharma. So he says that is there any way we can replace all the special characters from a cell, right? So I'll show you what exactly we have done here. So I have made a user form, and this is going to sort out all the issues. Now the point is, what we are trying to do here is that you have all these different cells, the values here, and you can see that is some cells have a dollar sign, @ sign, and then the star or the and operator, hash. There are different sign of caret is there, right? So what we are trying to do is we want that these all special characters should be replaced in one go. Now guys, there are different ways of doing it. You can prepare a VBA function, you can prepare a arrays formula as well, right? I had talked about these all things in my previous videos also long time back, but today I'm going to show you something very special. Right now, if I just go and click on this button, show form, you see that what we have done here is I have added all the special characters. If you think that any special character is missing, like there is no / here, right? So you can simply go and add that special character here, right? I'll just tell you how you can do that. But the point is, right now what we are doing is, when this prompt comes, your user will simply go and say that I want to replace this. So if he selects on this icon, which is the AND operator, then in the range which she's going to select, only the AND operator will be replaced. Okay, now for example, I say that I want to replace all. So let me just go and select all, right? So I say this. Now this is a reference edit, the control I have created here. I'll just tell you, I'll explain you all the things. I have already prepared the code, so but I'm just want to show you, give you a demo. So when you click on this, what happens when you click on this takes you to the Excel screen, and then there you need to select the range. Now let's say I want to actually select only these 3 cells. So use your mouse, because the keyboard is not going to work. So with the mouse I'm selecting A1 to A3, as you can see here, right? So once I'm done with that, I just go and press enter. The moment you press enter, the range would come here, right? So you go and click on the submit button. Now what will happen, the range which you have selected, there we will go and we will start replacing all these special characters one by one. Our VBA code is going to take care of that, because I have actually used some collection loops there. So now you go and check that. I go and press on the submit. Oh wow, beautiful. Can you see that, guys? Everything is gone, right? And it didn't even take, I think, 1 second, isn't it? Now the rest of the, obviously the these all items, they are all not going to be replaced because you haven't selected that. So what I'm doing in this form, first, the very important part here is the dynamic part of this form, is that you can do whatever you want. For example, now in these 3 cells, let's say I just want to replace only the star. You go and select the star only, and then go here, and this is the range independent. That means it is not going to specifically work on any cell. It can work on any of the range. You just go and select the range. Now for example, I say that I want to select these 3 ranges, right? With the help of the mouse I have selected this, right? Because my down arrow key, when I use the ref edit, it is not working. So please use the mouse. Now I got selected this. Now you know what we did actually, what we wanted to replace, only the star. So I just go and say enter. When you say enter, you're gonna be back on the screen and just click on the submit, and look at this, guys. Isn't it fantastic? You have your AND gone. However, the rest of the special characters, they are still coming there. So what else you need, right? So that's why I have made this form, so that we can cater to all the complex requirements. And this code is more of a very dynamic code. This is not specific to my subscribers question. We have covered everything here. Now what is happening in the background, let's talk about that. Okay, now the first thing which I will do is, so let me just go and copy this data here. This is just the backup data. Let's say go and paste the data, this time maybe here. Okay, now see guys, the point is, first of all, you develop a form. So I go to the developer tab, hit on the Visual Basic and insert the form here. Okay, you go and insert the form here. So in the form, what I did, I go to the view and I click on this toolbox. If the toolbox is not coming, no problem, just click outside it, come back here and then click here. You will find this toolbox on. Now from the toolbox, I'm going to create my checkboxes. So this is my checkbox. So what I did is I quickly created all these checkboxes one by one. So now you just go and copy and paste, Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V. So how many checkboxes you need, you just go and put them here, right? So these are all the checkboxes. You can see here that I got them created here, right? Now what is the next thing I did in this? The next thing is obviously you have to tell that which checkbox represents which special character. So what I did is I selected this and then I went to the view and I click on the property window, and when I click on the property window, then here what I did is I said that my checkbox, this caption is going to be that special character. So let's say I want to show here the question mark or whatever you want to do it, right? So just type in there the question mark and the question mark would appear here in the caption, right? When you click outside of this, you see that you have the question mark here. So this way I have created all these checkboxes here, which you're going to see here. Okay, now if you think that I'm running fast, the point is that this is not the basic level video on the user forms. If you want to understand how the checkboxes are drawn into the form and how the these what is this called, the toolbox, what you can do is you can go and watch the playlist called Excel VBA user forms. I had loaded many videos over there starting from the very basic levels, right? Now the point is, once you have created this all these checkboxes one by one by going to the their caption. For example, if I just go and select this and I then take you to the the property window, you see that I have created here a dollar sign, right? So this is what is happening here. So once you have created this, you are done with this first part. We know that my data is going to hold what sort of characters, and as I said that you can add here a couple of more. For example, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, forward slash, anything which you think that should be included in this project, you can simply go and create those checkboxes. Okay, now the second thing what we did, we created this ref edit. Now if it looks like a text box to you, you are mistaken, because this is not a text box. Look at this, text box doesn't look like this. So what I did is, if I take you back to that form here, what I did is, this is just a demo form I'm using actually. So I go to the toolbox, and in the toolbox now I'm going to show you that from where actually that the ref edit the control has come. So just give me a second, I click outside here and then click back on this toolbox. Okay, so now look at this, guys. This is where somewhere here you have that the ref edit box. So I just show you yeah, this is the one. All right, this is the ref edit. So when you click here, you just draw it like this. Okay, or you can keep this short as well, that's all up to you, right? Now what this does actually, this ref edit works like the application.input box. If you know the input boxes, where we go and say that the type is going to be the 8, and then that makes it the specifically related to restricted the user from entering any text or number, because type 8, when you enter in the input box, it becomes the range input box. Okay, so this ref edit is what it is going to do, it is simply going to pick up the range. That is why we are using it. And then finally what I've done, I've just created one command button, right? Command buttons are pretty simple, I don't think so I have to explain you. This is where somewhere here you will find that command button. This is the one, right? So on the command button I have written the macro, which I'm going to show you. So you got the point how we designed this user form, right? Now what is the next thing I want to do? Now see this, when you click on this form, okay, you have created here so many checkboxes, right? Now there is a one frame box also I have created just to decorate this, otherwise it has nothing to do with the VBA programming. Then you see that there is a one ref edit control, and then there is a command button as well. Now in the Excel VBA user forms, we have a collection loop. Okay, now what is a collection loop? Now collection loop, I have got I think 20 plus videos on the collection loop. The playlist name is Excel VBA collection loops. Collection loops, basically what it does is, it is designed for a specific type of object. There are so many collection loops. There are collection loops on the when you want to work with the folders, and the folders have different files, so you can use the collection loop there for each file in the folder.files. When you are going to access the Outlook folders, the emails inside that, then there is another collection loop for us, which is called the for each email in the folder dot items, email items. Then you talk about when you want to work with the different worksheets in Excel, there are 50-60 worksheets created, and you want to just go and select every sheet one by one and doing something there, right? So we have a collection loop called for each worksheet in worksheets. Similarly, if you want to work with the open workbooks, there are 10 workbooks which you have open, and you want to go to all these workbooks one by one, we have a collection loop for each workbook in workbooks, right? Similarly, in the charts also, we have the collection loop for each chart object in chart objects. You have the collection loop in the pivots also for each pivot table in the pivot tables, right? So guys, what is happening here? Microsoft says that, look, you're gonna work with these all objects because all these objects are different. You can't say pivot and the charts are same. You can't say that the worksheet and the workbooks are same, right? So I'm giving you the option. This is how the Microsoft designed the things. They say that, all right, so you have a bunch of these objects which fall under the same category. Now you don't have to work individually on them. I'm gonna give you a loop which starts with the for each object in the object. So that's how you actually write this, for each object in objects, right? Object and then the next object. So here the object comes as a singular and the objects comes as a plural. So what happens when you run this loop, when provided the object falls under the same category, like you can't say for each worksheet in workbooks, you have to write for each worksheet in worksheets, right? So same way, what we are going to do here is we're gonna say that for each of the control in my user form controls, just go and check what all controls are selected, because these are all called the user form controls. So then the VBA is going to loop through all these controls one by one on the auto mode, right? So it goes first on this control and it checks that whether it is selected. If it is selected, let's go and then do some action. If it is not selected, let's just ignore it and go to the next control. That's how we have planned this entire thing, right? So this is what we are going to do here. So we're gonna run the loop here, which would be something like this: for each control, which is a user form control, in my controls. Okay, I'm just going to show you that. I'm just giving you the idea, right? So when you're gonna write like this, so what happens, all the controls which are a part of this form, like this is also the one of the control which is a ref edit control, this is a combo box, the command button control, and this is a frame control. So we're gonna actually go to every control one by one, and we're gonna say that let's go and check which one is selected, right? That is the first thing. Why we are going to check that whether it is selected or not? Obviously, because if something is selected, we want to go in this cell, and we want to replace that. So there will be use the replace function, that replace in this text what the control which the user has selected, which the VB is going to give you back, and replace it with what? Nothing, space. That's the idea. Now the another part, which is the last part of this program, is that now you are making sure that you have to go to this control one by one. But how will you make sure that where this has to be replaced? Because if I say that I want to replace this, how I'm going to come to know that where you are going to replace this, right? Obviously you need this replacement is somewhere here in your data. So there we will go and say that we will go and select the range from this ref edit, and then we will run the loop. For example, I select this entire range. Then the plan is, let's go and run the another collection loop, which is called the for each cell in range, and then whatever the range you say, let's say I say A1 to A10, I'll make it dynamic definitely. Next cell. I hope you know about all these collection loops, right? Now this loop does what? This loop simply picks up your range, the range selected by the user using the ref edit control, and starts moving in all these cells one by one. And before it goes for the second cell, it will make sure that what I have selected here, that should be replaced. So we are going to run two collection loops, one collection loop inside the another collection loop. That's gonna be great fun. So let's now go and see the code, guys. All right, it's a very simple code. Trust me on that. So I go and click on the submit button. Now this is just the bunch of the lines which I have created. I have explained it much. You might be thinking that it's going to be big code. It's not actually big code. This is the only code. You can see here what I have done. Now I'm just quickly going to explain you everything, and this is going to be very easy. Okay, now the first thing is what you need to do. Understand, the first thing which I'm doing is, if I put the break code here, now when I click on this form, right, I go and obviously I select, let's say this, and let's say this. Okay, now the next thing which I do is I click on this button, and this button now will invite me to select the range, and let's say I go and select this range. Right now, this is what, guys, this is G2 to G7. Now this is the range I'm going to use in this collection. Now for each cell in my range, the range which is going to come from this ref edit. So you want to make this dynamic. Just go and press enter, click on the submit. Now what happens, look at this. Now I said that there is a variable over here which I have declared as a string, because obviously range always comes in the alphabet, right? So this variable is going to pick up the value which is inserted in my this ref edit control. This is the name of this me.refedit.value, right? So when I go and hover my mouse here, I can show you that. Isn't it what you selected? Exactly, right? So this range goes in this range selected variable. Okay, now the plan is that, look at this. This is the bigger loop. Now I'm saying that you have to go in this range, the same range which let me just go and minimize it, and let's just, this is the range I have selected, right? Now the plan is, start from this G2 cell, do some action. I mean, obviously replace the special characters which I have selected here, then go to this cell, and then do the same thing, then go to this cell, and then do the same thing which is the replacement, and then go to this cell. So this is the bigger loop. This is the outer loop where I'm making sure that it has to go from this cell to this cell. So your loop which you have written, look at this, you have said that for each of my range, in my range, and this is the selected range which we are capturing from this variable ref edit, which is saying that sheet 1 G2 to G7, right? Now this is the next range. So this is the bigger outer collection loop. So this is a range collection loop. Okay, just to make sure that your cells are going to be looped through one by one, whatever you select. Now here, one thing you need to understand, if you're not aware of the collection loops, you can't directly write here range word, because range actually is a VBA class. So what I have done is, if you look at this carefully, I have already defined my variable RNG. You can write whatever you want, guys, right? This RNG object is going to be considered as a range class. This is mandatory for you. This is how you write it. So now you say that for each range, in my range which is called G2 to G7, and then next range. So this is now going to loop through all my cells which are falling in that range one by one. Now when it goes inside the range, now here comes the important part. Now here we are going to target this collection loop, will target the first cell by default. You don't have to guide this range collection loop that from where you need to start, because once you select the range, it automatically starts looping through all the cells from the top to the bottom. So right now your target is this AJT $@HF33, right? Now here what we are going to do, we are again going to run a loop, and we're going to say that now since we have got this cell, now we want to make sure that what the user has selected here, and that should be replaced. Now maybe user has selected all, maybe like in this case I have selected only 2. So you can't just take everything for granted, you know, that by default everything would be selected. So what we have done here is now this loop for each control in the controls I have used. So what is happening here, if you look at this, now I said that there is an object which I have declared dim_ctl as msforms.control. This is, as I said, that these are all called the controls, checkboxes, option buttons, and then frame, combo buttons, list boxes, guys. Whatever you write there, they are all considered as user form controls, right? To run this loop for each control in the controls, that's how you write it. You say dim_ctl, I'm just using, you know, this CTL as I mean control. I'm just creating my own object. You can write whatever you want, and so you write dim_ctl as msforms.control. msforms is basically your class, which, you know, the library where you have this control class. Okay, Now the next thing is which you're going to do here is that, because you're dealing with the checkboxes, okay, so you said that there is another variable I'm going to declare, which is my checkbox, or you write whatever. Again, I'm repeating, this is not a VBA word. I simply said dim my checkbox as msforms.checkbox, because in the forms there is another class which we go and use as a checkbox if you have to work with the checkbox. Now see what is happening. You have written this for each control in my me.control. Me refers to the user forms, if you're not aware of it, okay. Me means the user form. Which user form? Which you have created this. So you're saying that for each of the control in my this user form controls, which means this control frame and then the checkboxes and then this ref edit and this submit, there are so many controls here. I'm saying that when you go in these all controls, just go and check if that checkbox is a type called checkbox, right? So now when you look at this type name of this control, so if the control name, because this is not a checkbox type, this is not a checkbox type, and this frame also is not a checkbox type, so why would I go and try to find out something which I really do not need it, okay? My main objective is to know the checkboxes, whether they are selected or not. So that's why I put the if condition, because this loop for each control in me.control, and this is what I have written in next control, this will actually start looping through all the controls, because your VBA doesn't know that you're specifically looking for the checkboxes controls only unless you specify. So as we have specified here, that if the type name of my control is going to be checkbox, make sure you write checkbox in the correct case, because if case, if conditions, if when you write the if coding in the Excel VBA, they are case sensitive, right? So checkbox is written in this way, C capital and B capital. So I'm saying that if it is a checkbox type, so let's go and check that. I press F8. Now look at this, this is not a checkbox type. That means it must be something else, right? Maybe I can go and try, if I just go and put the watch window here, you can see here, the moment I put the watch window, this is actually has taken me to the frame control, and I told you guys this is a frame control. So frame is not a checkbox, so I don't have to touch it. Let's go to the next control. So that's why I said that else and if. There we go. Time to go for the next control. Now what is the next control? I do not know, but here comes. So VBA now started looping through all these checkboxes. So is it a checkbox type? I can see here in the checkbox in this watch window, yes it is. So now what you need to do, here comes the very important line. Now once you know that you're in the checkbox, what you're supposed to do here is that checkbox object which you have declared here as a checkbox, you got to tell now this checkbox is now equals to what? This checkbox actually is equals to now that control, the control which my loop has captured now, because of which now I'm actually in the then area. So I simply go and write here that now my checkbox is going to be equals to control CTL object, right? So when you go and declare like this, now what will happen, you can refer to your this my checkbox as one of these controls. So we can now verify that whether they are selected or not. So I say that if this checkbox is true, true means if it is check marked, if it is true then it will go in this range value. So let's go and run this. I say F8. Now you see that it immediately went to the else mode, guys. What is the reason? The reason is simple, that it is not, that checkbox is not selected, okay? Now don't think that this is the checkbox. VBA might have captured this checkbox, okay? So we don't have to worry about it. So anyways, so if it is not selected, then we will not go and do anything else and if, and then next control. So what is the next control? Next control is again checkbox. Let's go and check this time. So what is the checkbox? Now you can see again it says no, it is not selected. So it's working on the rest of the checkboxes which are not selected. So I quickly go and run this. And now again else if, and then let's go and check that, again else if, and let's go and check that. Now look at this. Now your VBA has identified that there is a now checkbox which you have selected. So I say that if that checkbox is selected, then what I'm supposed to do? Well, then obviously I'm just going to replace, I'm going to this checkbox, if you look at this, this is coming here as @ sign, because I said that I need to know what basically that the checkbox which is selected, what value is there, obviously, because if I know that this is selected, I want to capture what is selected then. So you can use the my checkbox dot caption. Dot caption is a property of the checkbox. But remember one thing, this is very important. What we are doing here, we are saying that range dot value, what is your range dot value, what is your RNG? You remember for each range in the range cell, this is the same cell we are talking about, this one AJT $$$$. So now this value is going to be equals to what? I say that replace this value. You can see here we have got this, the entire cell, and here we're going to replace what? We are going to find the @. This is what we are going to replace, and then we are going to replace it with the space. So what will happen when I run this? Now you see that if I just show you, look at this, guys, you don't have the and here. All right, so there's no and here, right? So now I go and run the code again. So now it goes for the next control. Now in the next control again it has another checkbox, so again the entire process will run. This is not selected, so I go and keep running this. So now you can see, now I got my checkbox, which is now AND operator. So I mean, your loop is going to run this till the time you're not done with all these controls, and till the time you're not done with your this entire range which you have selected. This is the logic. Okay, so I go and replace this. Obviously there is nothing to replace because AND is not there in this range value, right? So nothing will happen. That's okay. If it is not there, it is not there, right? Now what is the next thing you want to do? So this loop keeps on running like this, guys. Okay, so you go and run this. Now next control, so keep on running this, keep on running, and you see that next RNG is coming. Now we have another text, right? So in this another text again, I will run the loop again. Now you can see here again the loop has restarted. Again we got the frame. Why? Because obviously you are now on the next cell. You are on this Aman caret at and star nf. So when you are on the new cell, you know, obviously your loop starts from the beginning, right? So now here also again I'm going to repeat the entire process again and again. So that's how you go and run this entire program. Okay, so let me just go and press F5. So you got the idea. So this is the loop which will go and, you know, let me just go and reset the code and add some commentary here so that you can understand it. This basically is the loop to loop through all the controls, to loop through all form controls, right? Which include everything, whatever you have drawn in the form. Okay, but this makes sure that only checkboxes are allowed, right? So maybe I get the combo box, maybe I get the ref edit, but the moment I go and then inside this, you know, first I will be asked, is that a checkbox control? If it is not, it simply goes in the else mode and just, you know, get out of that loop. Okay, and then it will go and search the next control. But if it is the case, then we are saying that all right, so now my checkbox which I have declared as msform.checkbox, that's going to be equals to my control, because this is what you're using. So once your checkbox becomes that control, you can go and, you know, use that here. So you can simply say that now if it is a checkbox, not necessarily it is going to be selected. So that's why we are again putting one more condition, that if the checkbox is selected, then what you need to do, then on the range, on that cell, you know, in my range, you have to replace that range value with this and replace it with the space. So that's how, guys, this entire process works, right? So now if I go and, you know, run this quickly, and I go, let's say I go and select all the controls of these checkboxes. So this for each control in the user form controls, you know, this is going to loop through all these controls, and this is going to find that all are selected, and the replace function will run 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 times, and all the things will be replaced. So if I go and select this entire table now, right, so you can see that I can select any table, it doesn't matter. The moment I press enter and I click on this submit, now you see that what is going to happen. So the program ran, you put the message box in the end that it is done. So you can see here everything is gone, right? So better you can do one thing, once the program runs, you know, you can quickly go and unload the macro, unload me, right? You can, I mean, not the macro, but you can unload the form, so that form just goes off and user would be able to know what has happened. Okay, so this can work on any data. That's how we have designed this. Okay, I'm just gonna pause the video, and you can pause the video, and you can just go and note down this entire code. So there are two collection loops which we have, you know, used here, and the good part is that how to use the collection loop. In the collection loop, this is the best example. We have used the for each cell in the range, and then within that range loop we have used the for each control in the user form controls, right? So that's it for now, guys. I'm signing off, and I'll see you in the next video. Hope you're gonna have a lot of fun with this code, and don't forget to subscribe and share. Thank you so much. Bye bye.